I will start. Houston, it was going so fast. Houston, Texas, Maui, Hawaii, Gainesville, Alabama, Charlotte, North Carolina, Huntsville, Alabama, Northern Illinois, Denver, Olympia, Bushwick, Colorado, and Huntsville. Oh, there's so many of you guys. Central Florida, Denver. All right. Thank you guys for joining us. This is Busting Myths with Student Midwives. As you can see, we have the two of us, Titilola and myself, present. The other two student midwives are also student midwives and been called to births and clinicals at the moment. So what today is going to be focused on TT's her journey through becoming the professional midwife. So Doula Chronicles Reproductive Futurism is a virtual gathering in honor of the work of Lorretta Ross and Octavia Butler have done. And this conference, or virtual gathering, I'll say, will be following the footsteps of dreaming and creating what a better future around pregnancy and birth can look like. As birth workers, we are on the front lines of a maternal health crisis. We witness near misses, mistreatments from healthcare staff, and we see obstetric violence often. Grieving and mourning is a part of our work, and so is creating anew where it didn't exist before. DCRF 2020 is a space to share with your comrades what the future can look like. And as said by one of our favorite Black midwives and elders, Jenny Josephs, we are in the business of saving lives. I want to welcome TT. How are you doing, sis?
Hello, I am doing amazing. A little flustered, but I am doing amazing. How are you?
You know, that's just the midwife life.
I was driving. I was like cutting people off on the highway. I was like, I would be doing like in birth, out of birth. It doesn't even matter. Like, I guess this is my life now. So
I knew that asking birth workers to be on these workshops, you may be present, you may not be present in whatever ways. I welcome you in all the ways that you show up.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Those of you who are joining us, please leave your comments in the chat box and your questions in the Q&A box so I can really pinpoint what they look like. But I'll start off with, why midwifery?
Ooh, why midwifery? You know, I was introduced to midwifery work when I was in high school. I feel like I gravitated to it for a really it was very conventional. I was like, all right, my parents are telling me I have to get a job. Like, you know, I'm Nigerian. So everyone's like, work, you know, go to school for a reason, then have a job and all these things. And I used to be like, I don't want to be miserable at my job. I remember like being so disinterested in like all these career goals that people would set for me, or even things that I set for myself. I
started off as a pre-med major at a private Baptist university. So I get the background.
Yeah. But so then I was on a tour in high school in a hospital, and we were on the L&D floor. And this woman that was giving us a tour, she was a midwife, and the way she was talking about everyone and like all the moms on the floor and like her coming to work every day, being able to wear whatever she wanted to, I was just like, I need to be a midwife now. Like, why didn't anyone tell me there's a such thing as a midwife? I need to be a midwife now. But along that journey of me going to school and like all the extra things that I did that weren't midwifery related, my heart grew fonder to midwifery work because of the personal relationship. I don't have any children of my own, but the whole life experience of birth is just so magical to me. And it's like, I am so honored to be able to devote my life to attend births with people, which is really amazing. Yeah, so that's why midwifery.
How did you decide on studying? Because for me, deciding on how to study and the way it was going to look, I didn't study on how I was going to study. I just found a school and I just went. Though looking back, I should have probably put more effort and thought into what that looks like. But how did that look like for you? I know that you were in Houston for a minute, and now you're in Philly for a minute, and you're originally from, Brooklyn. How did you get through that process of where you're going to be a student?
So funny enough, when I graduated undergrad, I went to the University of Buffalo. So I was upstate New York. After I graduated, I took a semester off, and I took the semester off because I was planning on going to New Zealand to study midwifery out there.
I looked down internationally too.
I was like all the way to the visa part, and my dad was like, TT, no, like this is not what's happening. Like, you need to go figure something out. Like, it can't be New Zealand. And I was so hurt and all the things like that. But honestly, I just landed into the midwifery program that I attended by chance. Like, I went on Google and I was like, what school is doing rolling admission? What school is going to accept me? And what school am I going to be able to just start midwifery off the bat? Because, I'm from New York. So it was always like, oh, go to nursing school and like do the whole roundabout with that. And I did go to UB and I was an intended nursing major, and they had me on their wait list. So never accepted me to their nursing program. And I was just like, I didn't even want to be a nurse.
The nursing schools in New York City is a competition, let me tell you.
For no reason. And I felt like I was giving them my best stuff, but I guess on both parties, it wasn't the right fit. So I am really, really grateful that I was able to find a program that was similar to the type of studying that I did. Like, I just came out of college, so I was really familiar with the whole go to class all week or have your class sessions, and then there's homework, and then there's a test, and that whole routine of things, which I felt like I just glided into very seamlessly. But I know there's other like programs where I do look back, like I don't have any children, I don't really have like much, it's just me. So like I'm able to commit myself to that type of time, but I am also really grateful for the PEP program and any other school where they actually like accommodate people that have, extra things with their lifestyle that they can't just sit in a classroom from 9 o'clock to 4 p.m., 3 times a week. But for me, that was like the best thing that I could have done, even though it was by chance. Like, I think God was like, yeah, she's gonna need this one. Like, let her find this one on Google. But yeah.
Which school did you go to?
So I graduated from Birthwise Midwifery School.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how was that experience?
I'm the type of person that like, if I feel like some type of static, or I'm not feeling like I don't fit in well, or like I'm just not really jiving with everyone, like I'll just stick to myself and just put my head down and just do what I got to do. And that's pretty much what Birthwise was for me. It is a great school, though.
That was the advice that I was given. Put your head down and finish. Though yeah. I didn't put my head down enough.
yeah. It's hard. It's so hard. It's a lot of tongue biting. It's a lot of like, because I have a snappy personality, but it comes off real subtle. Like I used to be in my classrooms like, that's not right. So what does it mean if X, Y, and Z happens? And I would just be like, TT, just, really commit yourself to having a preceptor that I actually gel with. And that's what moved me to go to Texas. Because I was like, it's this dope midwife, a birthing center. Most of her clients are people of color. I was like, yes, this is where I need to be. This is exactly. And that's kind of
where was that?
So I was at the birthing place in Houston,
Texas. The birthing place in Houston. Okay.
For a year, which was really lovely. I was there with other Black students, other Black midwives. I had a Black midwife herself, the owner of the birthing center. And she also had really close midwifery friends that, they knew the art of midwifery. They might have not been doing like midwifery as a job at the moment, but like even just to be around that presence was just like a gift in itself. And it made up for like the 2 years that I spent in Maine at Birthwise.
And then where did you go after that?
So after Texas, after the birthing place, I started.
Oh wait, better question is, what did you do at the birthing place?
So I started there real green. This was pretty much my first real rotation where I was like responsible for a lot of things. And at the birthing place, I don't know if you know anybody over there, but It's very rigorous. Even if it's like a few students and one midwife, is very like, she holds the students to a higher standard. Like she expects a lot of the students, which I think in the beginning I really enjoyed, because I was like, yes, this is exactly what I signed up for. Do all the like gritty work of it. But yeah, so it started off with, you know, the simple stuff, doing vitals, things like that. We're doing a lot of drills over there, which was really helpful. Then we just graduated onto like, you know, more advanced skills. And then it was like catching babies with midwife supervising. So I did
between the green stage and catching. How long was that?
I would say I was there for 11 months total, and I didn't start catching babies until, well, you know something. Well, officially, I didn't start catching babies like as uh, um, a midwife, a student midwife, in observation. So I didn't start that until probably like 9 months in. But like, you know, here and there will be situations where it was like, all right, TT, this is, you know, you make the decision on what's going to happen to this client. We have bits and pieces of that, but it wasn't to the end where it was like everyone, like all of the clients was underneath, not necessarily only underneath me, but I had my own clients that I was following through as if I was their, you know, primary
My
midwife.
first COC was so nerve-wracking.
And mine was kind of like, for a little while, actually, I was like, you trust me? You really trust me? Me? Like, that's crazy. Like, I trust me, but do you trust me? Like, it was always like, I needed people. I was really grateful to have people around me to like really encourage me and like really like let me know like, all right, you doing fine. Like, you know, just continue. Cause I really need the reassurance. I really needed someone to be like, oh, like, because it's almost like your dreams finally come true. And it's like, what do you do now? Like, it's kind of crazy. It's like driving. Like in the beginning, it's like you take all the classes and it's all great. And then you take your first road trip by yourself and it's like, oh, wow, I forgot to add gas. Like, that's crazy.
What is a COC?
So a COC is a continuity of care. So that's like when you have, it honestly, it depends on like which lens you're looking through. Like I know PEP students I think it's 3 or 4 prenatals, and then the birth.
Oh yeah, no, 3 or 4 prenatals. You're right.
Yeah,
I meant 5 COCs total.
And then the birth, and then some of the postpartum, and the new, you know, the little nuances like doing the newborn exam and things like that. I believe that it was similar at the Birthwise too, but at the birthing place, it was more so like a client came into care and you had to be at all of the prenatals with the client, like the same client that you're following. So that was considered a COC in that sense. But like now, like, you know, most preceptors, they tend to just go by what your governing body is telling you to do, whether it's PEP or whether it's a school.
The school. Yeah. Yeah, I think well, someone just posted, it's 5 prenatals, 2 postpartums, the birth of the placenta, and a newborn exam.
Yeah.
And you're doing that 5 times. So you're actually kind of seeing them from the beginning of the pregnancy or when they first show up until the end.
Which is it was always really interesting to me, because sometimes I know it was like you had to have prenatals going over a span of 2 different trimesters, and it would be like, what if somebody came in at 39 weeks, at 29 weeks, and it's like you can't count them as a COC.
We would be in the back. So at MLO, there's like this big old shelf of like all of the files, and we would be looking at all the dates when they came in. Is this person in second? Is this person in third? To make sure that you get both trimesters, even if it's like 2 days before.
And then they come in their third, and it's like, I guess I'll take them. Like, guess I'll go to the birth. I mean, you know, every birth is experience and you should, but when you're juggling so much, like you can't help but to prioritize like which births you really need to be.
Yeah, definitely. We got, this is there's several questions. So the first one is, can you explain the trajectory of the education for CPM? How long is schooling? How do you find your apprenticeship? Considering dropping out of C&M school. Oh.
Girl. Oh, a person. Ooh, dropping out. Ooh. Let me tell you, I've had that conversation with myself plenty of times, just like, you know what, actually, I could just start somewhere else all over again. But the first question was
The path to, what is the path of education for CPM?
So specifically with Birthwise, they just require that you have a high school diploma, which seems very minimal. And like you would think like there'll be more people coming out of high school going into midwifery school, which I recommend, honestly, like save the drama and just go straight into midwifery school.
We had one student in my cohort who did that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
We all felt she was too young to be there.
Yeah. Everybody's like older and like you know, it's all about life experiences, and you really do lose out on a lot of stuff being a midwife and just like committing yourself to clients, which, you know, isn't as fun for some people if you're that type of person, but you know, each his own. But my school requires a high school diploma. I know some CPM schools require that you take some college classes or something like that, like English classes and things like that. I know there's other schools.
Was A&P required?
Huh?
Was anatomy and physiology required?
No, and I couldn't even bring over my credits from my undergrad. It was crazy. They made us do it all over. And they kind of, in the beginning, I think that was everyone's like thing was like, all right, I took these classes. Can I just like not do it in midwifery school? But it was kind of, my director of the school was kind of like, you learned these classes and these subjects in a different lens. They taught it to you in like this very broad sense, like, you know, so you could pass a class. It's just real general. Whereas in midwifery school, they teach it to you specifically on the pregnant body and the pregnant relations to that, you know, whatever part of the subject you're talking about, which kind of made sense. I really didn't see the difference, but I was like, okay, but it makes sense when you put it like that. Like you have to kind of like learn a subject in the lens of pregnancy and pregnancy related.
At Birthwise, did y'all do your schooling first and then you did the births, or was it together?
So Birthwise has two different cohorts. They have a community cohort and they have a campus cohort. I was a part of the campus cohort, so that meant I was going to class, like I was going to a school building, physical classes, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday from like, I think it was like 9 a.m. to like 4:30 p.m. And then we had Thursday, Friday, and the weekend off. And I would just use those days to work part-time. But they also had the community cohort, which that meant that you would come to campus for like 2 weeks straight. You're in class from 9 o'clock in the morning to 4:30 p.m., Monday to Friday. But it was only for 2 weeks. And that's the time where you're asking all the questions from your independent learning, you're taking tests, you're doing skills, you're doing routines and things like that. And then you go back home, back to your life, you know, still being expected to study and like keep up with your classwork, but also you're able to like do a preceptorship during that time, or a lot of people have to work or, you know, be a mom or, you know, be the head of household to their family. So, which I like that program.
Oh, I like that. So you can kind of still have a life.
Yeah, which is, it's cute. It sounds cute, but for people that have a preceptorship to like go back to, is like you have to leave your home for 2 weeks. You might miss a birth. You might like, you know, a lot of preceptors don't even understand that part, and it's like, no, you're not gonna leave me like for 2 weeks every so months, just so you know. A lot of people don't like that kind of vibe.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like the grass is always greener on the other side, because at MLO, we live, breathe, sleep, everything at the school and the birth center. There's one house separate, and in the middle, basically we just ran through like the backyard into the birth center and go back to school, and then back to the birth center and back to school. And so, you know, we have our orientation, and then you start working in the birth center, you start doing prenatals, you start doing visits, but you're also going to class interchangeably.
I can imagine.
Which can feel like so much information.
It does. It can. And then I can't even imagine doing that. And then also like having so many births happen at the birth center. Like that's also wild. There's a lot of juggling that people expect you to like know how to do straight off the bat, which is,
Yeah.
I mean, and then it's also like to each his own. Some people like get into environments like that and they know how to crush it and they know how to like do all the things and be present all the time. And then you have the older classmates that's like, oh, you know, here's some advice and do it like this is how I do it. But honestly, like, just you have to get your own groove and grip on what's happening. And it's like, that's wild.
That part was easy to me. It's the cultural stuff that takes some time.
Time. It doesn't even take time. It takes just, you gotta, it's.
Next, how long is schooling?
Yeah, so Birthwise, you're supposed to graduate in 3 years. So it's like a year and a half on campus doing classworks or whatever that looks like. And then it's a year and a half in the field doing your numbers. So for me, it took me 3.5 years. I took a little break after coming back from Texas. So and then I went into a solo practice with a midwife that had a slower volume. So it took me a little bit of time to get the rest of my numbers. So
how did you find your apprenticeships?
The first one, I believe I was just Googling. We're millennials. So Google is like, I just started Googling black midwife this, black midwife that. And I'm had a book full of midwives, their numbers, their email addresses, and where they were located. And I would just go down the list. First, I'll be like, oh, I can see myself living in this city. So I'll like circle those ones and like reach out to them. And I don't call people. I usually send an email first. So that's how I got my first preceptor. I sent her an email. I was like, look, this is me. This is where I'm coming from. These are the skills that I have. And this is why I want, like, you know, just like a regular job. It was like, this is why I want to work at your birth center. And she was like, I remember she emailed me. She called me back. She didn't even email me back. And she was like, well, I'm not going to hire you unless I see you in person. And I was like, but I'm in Maine. Can we just do like a video chat? And she was like, no, I have to see you in person. So I booked I was in Texas for like 12 hours. Like I got on a plane in Maine, took the plane to Texas, Houston, Texas, got off the plane. She picked me up at the airport. She took me to the birthing center. We had our little interview. She took, actually, you know what?
Wait. You went to Texas for 12 hours for an interview?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. I don't even know where I got the funds to buy the ticket, to be quite honest, but I managed it. And I went there and she gave me the tour and then we went to go eat. And I remember like being so nervous, like, I know this lady did not make me get on a plane to Texas for her not to take me. And I remember I was like, so when you gonna let me be a student? And she was like, I'll let you know. And I remember I was on her. I was like, listen, you have to tell me now. Like, I need to know what I'm doing with my life right now. And I remember walking away from her car. She was like, I'll take you as a student. And then I flew back to Maine and had classes and had work and like back to normal life. And then, yeah, that's how I got my first preceptorship.
How many apprentice positions can a midwifery student expect to have? Is there a typical number?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think we would have completely different, because you were going to solo practices or at that birth center.
Yeah.
One midwife, where I train at a school. And so it was whatever midwife who was on staff. So anywhere from like 5 to 10 midwives would be throughout the school in that year. And then going forward, currently right now, I think I am at around 12 preceptors.
Wow.
And I ain't done.
Wow.
What about you?
It's amazing though. Some people could be really, really lucky and get into a high volume site or be at a site long enough where they could get all of their numbers done, which is really good and convenient. And, you know, your life pretty much stays the same for a long period of time. But it is something special to be able to work alongside with a number of midwives. Personally, I've worked with Oh, I've never counted. That's interesting. So I had a preceptorship at the birth house. That was the birthing center connected to Birthwise. And I only worked with one midwife. There was other midwives on staff, but I only worked with one of them. So that's one. And then I moved to another
18 hours
that had 3 midwives on staff, and I went to births with all 3 of them. So that's 4. Then I went to Texas, one main one, so that's 5. And then the one that I'm at, and then when I came to Philly, I started working with all the community midwives. So that's 3 right there. So what is that? 7, 8 preceptors that I've had. Yeah, 8. I don't even think it's that common to see people only have like 1 or 2 preceptors.
The ones who do, it takes a while.
Yeah.
It can take some years. What if you want to be a midwife, but want to focus more on well-person care and less on birth?
Well, that's nice. That's beautiful to have that interest. But in midwifery school, they want you to do everything. But the thing about midwifery is that you can tailor your workload on your job to what you want. So if all you want to do is well body care and only have appointments doing well body care, then once you graduate, that door is definitely open. And I'm sure there's a need for midwives only doing well people care.
But it depends on what state you're in for CPM, because there's certain states where as a CPM, you can only do well-person care on either the clients that you were with or in that practice are up until their 6-week appointment. So only on postpartum folks versus just doing GYN care on anybody.
Yeah, definitely certain states. I know Virginia is one of the states that you can. Maine is another state that you can. Yeah, that's all I know off the top of my head. Then you get into like insurance companies, because you can do well people care like just off the strength and have your own documents and things like that. But when it's time to like draw labs and like insurance company to pick up on some tabs, like that's when it's like real tricky and the numbers like really matter. But yeah.
Do you pay your preceptors, or do they pay you for your labor? Love this question.
Ooh, I love it too. So I will start that off by saying I do not believe students should pay at all. Like I do not think students should pay for anything during preceptorships. That makes everything 50 million times harder. By saying that, my first preceptorship, I was paying my preceptor $300 a month to be her student. Granted, Birthwise, the school I attended, pay the midwives for births that I attend as a student and I assist in the prenatals that I go to. So some months my school was just picking up that tab, but there were also some months where I was paying $300. Well, my parents was paying $300 to be in a preceptorship, which is crazy.
Yeah, I didn't pay. Well, I guess I did pay the midwives. I'm paying their salaries by paying tuition.
Yes.
So I think $300 a month. Well, how much was MLO per semester? Probably about the same range. Yeah. But it was a lot of money for someone who can't work right now because you got to attend births.
Because you want me to go to a birth. And you want me to be on call.
Yeah, and it's that whole, well, save up before, and it's just, do you understand the life of a Black film?
I don't even have money before. Like, there was no money ever. Like,
yeah, but there has been conversations about changing, that process. But the old school way of doing it is the student pays the midwife for their time because of all of the, I guess, issues that may show up. I don't know. I did work at a birth center in Austin where I got paid hourly, but I wasn't paid as a student. I was paid as a birth assistant who was also getting her numbers. Yeah. So they also do that too. So double the work, but you get the same pay.
Yeah. Definitely. Which, sometimes I will say being in preceptorships, especially, I don't know what your experience were with your preceptors, but I'm not gonna lie, my preceptors fed me. Like they fed me, they made sure I was good. Like if I were, had the courage to ask them, they got me. But even gathering the courage to be like, I am dead broke and I can't put gas in my car, like to get to this birth, like that's a whole nother hurdle to get through. And I've been on so many lunch dates with all of my preceptors. I don't know if it's because I'm a good time and they just like eating with me, and that's why, but definitely. And but I don't think paying for someone's food does not equate to you having to pay them to be their student.
Yeah. At the school, no. I did, the director of the school took me grocery shopping one time, like a large shopping trip at Costco's. And then, she would do little things here and there for me, but in large thing, no, we were all on our own.
Yeah.
All on our own to figure out what it was. And I mostly just kind of survived through fundraising until I couldn't survive that way anymore. But then when I went to another birth center, which was predominantly Chicana midwives, it was way, way different. The meals were every birth, every day we were eating grand meals or cooking, and it was, but I still had to pay to be present. But in that space, I kind of understood because it was a brand new birth center ran by POC, and that funding was needed to keep that place going.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a white preceptor? And if so, how was the experience?
So the beginning of my midwifery journey, I only had white preceptors. Like the first preceptor clinical rotation that I had at Birthwise was in a group practice with white midwives. The second one I had was with white midwives. But when it was time for me to pick my own and find midwives of my own, I definitely only worked with black midwives. But I actually do work with a white midwife. I assist her on births out here in Philly. So it's interesting. It's definitely a different vibe at births. And it's different. Like I just catch on to things differently than white people, to be just completely honest. Like some things that might bother them won't bother me, or something.
Those microaggressions become macro when you know what's happening. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, this is interesting, but can you please sign this off? Like, I gotta go. Like, this is a lot. But I definitely noticed, like, I definitely have different relationships with my black preceptors versus my white preceptors.
Not they kind of follow you through your journey.
And they understand, they get it. They know exactly what you're going through. They know exactly how being in school is. They know it. They know like how my family feels about me, like being in school without me having to even tell them. Like they get it.
All but one of my preceptors were white. And the one black midwife, I didn't attend any births with her, just did a skills training with her mostly. And I apprenticed with the midwife here in Brooklyn last summer, but not on my norm paperwork, but I'm probably reconsidering. I should probably put that on my norm paperwork now. But it was as what you imagine it feels like to work with white women on a very deep, personal, vulnerable level. Imagine just we're all tired, we're all, hungry, or, in this space of brain fog of birth. Then on top of it, you have the structural racism of the institution of the school, and then their own personal racism and biases. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. And I think the last rotation that I did with a white midwife, was the thing that stuck out the most to me was etiquette. I was like, we have two different etiquette styles. Like certain things that she would do that I'm like, oh, you want to do that at somebody's home, or like farting around people. Like, I mean, it's okay. Like, be free in yourself and all that good stuff. But there's people here. Like, just not, don't do that.
How has being a student and apprentice been during the pandemic?
Ooh, so that's interesting because I finished all of my numbers. Like I was done. Like I was doing births just off the strength because I was still in Philly up until February. That's when I told myself, I said, you're done, start studying for your senior exam at that point, go home to New York, be with your family. And then boom, the pandemic hit. So it was kind of like almost surreal because I was like in my apartment, not really knowing what was happening. I just knew my agenda, and my agenda was to chill and not do anything. So it was kind of fun in that sense. But then it was like, I started assisting births way more now. And it was more like just me and another midwife instead of like two midwives.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's been the interesting part of that.
So in the theme of reproductive futurism, I want you to close your eyes and picture your practice with no limitations, with no white supremacy. What does that look like?
That looks like
tell us what you smell, tell us what you feel, what you hear, what you see.
I see a really, really home-like, like incense, like super sister girl, like environment where it's not, too birthy straight off the back. Like people that aren't pregnant could be in. Just a space where like youth can do things, men could hold gatherings, pregnant women could learn about giving birth or pregnancy. People that aren't interested in pregnancy at all can come and like grasp information from like almost like a community center type vibe. I see like, it's also interesting because I'm in the process of looking for office space. So that's pretty much exactly what I want. Just like super like comfy chairs, like people not wanting to leave for hours, like really, really open and warm and scented and super free. And I don't have to worry about insurance. And what else? Imagery, textures, like all of that, warm colors, bright lights, in a neighborhood predominantly with people of color. I would really love to be in an area with young, youthful, like very, very grounded, family-like, single-like, like very, very motivated, self-motivated people, goal-orientated Black people to one day like be that person like everybody knows in the community as the midwife. That is my hope.
What are your prenatals shape like? What is the process of your prenatals in that space?
So I know how I don't like stuff back to back personally. I hate back to back stuff. Like I like little gaps. So honestly, I can see myself like stretching out a whole prenatal day. Like definitely not coming into the office every day. We're not doing that. I definitely want days off, not just the weekends. I like waking up at 10, so probably start prenatals at 11. I don't mind having evening prenatals, like going into the night. That's fine with me. Definitely not every day. Definitely very like the space being well utilized where people can access their own health themselves. Like I'm just there as an advisor and not like, so now do this, now do that, now let's do this. Like having that feng shui thing going around that people are like, oh, I know when I start my prenatals, I'm supposed to get on the scale and write it down and do this. Like things like that. And now that people are able to do their vitals at home, is like, let's bring that into the office too.
I imagine the kitchen being busy all the time.
Yes. Food, definitely. Like, definitely. Ooh, I never thought about having a kitchen, but I could definitely see myself in water, lots of water. If anybody's ever been in a prenatal with me, water is like always, please drink it.
Oh, yeah, I don't have water. I do have water next to me. I got water.
Good for you. See,
I got my Fuck 12 water and my herbal tea.
I have my very plastic water bottle. But it's okay. But yeah.
So what are the next steps for what are your next steps you're doing now into getting in your licensure?
So that is the next step, is taking the NARM. So that's my next step.
How are you studying for it?
Ooh, that's fun. So I actually got a scholarship with Mercy in Action, the Claudia Booker Scholarship, to be able to take their NARM prep course.
I love that that's still happening.
Yeah, that was really interesting. I actually didn't know. I was on their website and I was like, let me see if, like, because there's no dates, there's no nothing. So I was like, let me see if it's still available. And it happened and I got it, and I'm taking it right now, which is really, really helpful. I've been flashcards. I've never wrote so many flashcards in my life, so this is exciting. That I have another booklet that I bought from, I think her name is Ashley or something like that, and I got that from her, which was $45, which was interesting. And yeah, and my school notes that I took to take my senior exam, that's really like my 3 things that I'm like, I need to finish all 3 of them, reading all of them, digesting all of them before taking the NARM. So I'm hoping to take the NARM next month, actually. So that's exciting.
Okay, sending you good vibes.
Thank you. I appreciate
Letting the ancestors know that you need to become a midwife, even though you are a midwife.
Yeah. Yeah.
I forgot to address why I put young midwives on the image instead of student midwives.
Yes.
Do you think you know why?
I think we talked about it, right? Because like the whole, you're always a student, you're always, in student role learning, but a young midwife just really emphasizes somebody that's like fresh in the game. Like, even I was just talking to somebody, like even being like an up and coming midwife during the pandemic is something to like take notice of, because it's different. For a lot of people, like a lot of people are just adjusting their normal routine to fit into the pandemic, whereas we are like in the pandemic and it's like, no, I'm going to carry this over into like my actual
skills are going to be completely different.
Yeah.
I think for me, it was a difference in my own, what do they call it? Where you don't really believe what you are. Imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
And it was coming back from a year in Texas in the desert, and then starting as a doula and then going and assisting and so forth. And folks introducing me as a midwife. And I'd be like, no, I'm still a student. And they're like, you.
I am the opposite. Don't call me a student. I'm not a student. I'm doing midwifery stuff. Like I
agree, yeah. But it's like we get in that conditioning that you have to have that paper from this institution that says you are licensed and you can practice. Now you are a midwife. And realizing that is what they did to the granny midwives. And does that make them not midwives anymore because now they were no longer legal in whose eyes? If shit hits the fan, y'all know who y'all calling. And so that was where I kind of, my own of dealing with, yes, I'm still doing classes, and yes, I am not particularly, legalized in the eyes of the state and the government. But also understanding that midwifery does not fit in that box that the medical schools and the nursing schools want to fit you in. It's a whole different practice, and it's a lifestyle. It's something that you're always present with.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. And then I also had this like, not epiphany, but I was just like, you gotta chill out, because even if somebody calls me a student midwife, a young midwife, a midwife in general, it's kind of like, call me whatever you want. I'm still going to do the same exact thing. Like, I'm going to
Mhm.
do it with the same confidence. I'm going to do it with the same precision, all of that. So it's kind of like, you know what? That's like when I'm with my clients and I'm talking to them and like chit chatting with them, and it's like, oh, so you're gonna take the test and blah blah blah, and then you'll be a midwife. And in my head, I'm just like, yeah, but I'm gonna do the same exact thing once I get that paper. So I'm not really sure much will change. Like,
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure this is the same TT that you're gonna get. But yeah, the whole labeling and all of that, like titles and like making it clear. Yeah, not my jam.
What support would you like from your community into helping your practice flourish in this year?
Ooh. First
I
off,
want to be sending clients to you by this time next year, and you
I
should
hear it. Send them
practice.
now. I'm taking clients now. um, first off, I can't even imagine receiving anything more, because I've gained and got so much. It's like beyond me. Like, God and the people around me is really the reason why I'm here today. Like, as I look back on all the things that I've done, all the places I've been, all the situations I was subjected to, like, I don't think like, it's not normal. Like, people don't just rise from situations like that. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's so crazy to just be a midwife in general, to finish the process of schooling and then get on that side of it. But like, I had a laptop since 2011, like, and it was
Mm.
still kicking, like still boogieing, until like I graduated from midwifery school, and it was kind of like, oh, now I need a new one. And then my friend put up a GoFundMe, and then boom, I had a laptop. I had a whole laptop. Like, I can't even, like, I'm so grateful. Like, I have a car, I have like, I have support in the
What
community.
about the birth bag?
The birth bag. Do I have a birth bag?
Yeah, all
Yeah.
your tools and all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. I'm pretty much
wow.
ready to go. Yeah. I've been ready to go for a little while now. But yeah, I can't tell, like, even buying a $300 birth stool, that was kind of like, oh, you really a midwife. That's crazy. You a midwife, like a whole $300 that I could just spend on a birth stool. That's like, I could not imagine. What I would want from the community is like more things like this, more of like looking at, because when you're in the process, I feel like a lot of people that finish schooling and are midwives and have been practicing for a little while, they don't have the time, but they don't really have like the resources to like almost like look back and like touch so many people, even though they're not like your precepting student, like to
Hmm.
be able to shed knowledge and like support to the people that are going through schooling, because it's such a lonely process. It's so lonely, and it's like nobody understands you, like, and
I'm getting
especially for
flashbacks to being in my studio apartment.
like going crazy. Like, I'm telling you, I would like convince myself that it's really time to like pick up a trade, and maybe it'll be good if I became a post office person. Like, I'm just like, this is crazy. Like, who willingly subjects themselves to things like this? But I remember always feeling like I just need, like, I didn't really have like midwives to look up to. Like, I looked up to them because of what I known from the internet. Like, yes, your birth center looks amazing. The relationship between your client looks amazing. I would love that. But I never had that, like, I'm hitting her up, like, this is what's happening to me right now in this classroom. Like, I wish I had something like that, but I'm also grateful that, I was able
Carmen
to.
was my person.
Mm-hmm. That was.
I think I called Carmen a day that I walked stormed through the birth center to the backyard and like grabbed the fence, and I was crying, and I was so ready to just be like, fuck all of this. And I called her, and she talked me down off the ledge. But I had a few people who were emergency numbers because
Mm-hmm.
they knew it was going to come,
Mm-hmm.
right? They knew it was going to come.
and it's crazy, and they just talk you off the ledge, and it's like, you know what, maybe I could
You're
do
there
that.
for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to create better schools.
Yes.
We already got one here with Jenny.
No, everybody go to Florida. Go to Florida.
You know, the school opened, and I was very much like, do I need to move my entire life all over again?
Oh, and nobody tells you how much you have to move. Like, I hate moving. Like, I refuse to pack not another box.
I haven't been still since I was 24.
Oh, yeah. See, I'm okay. I hate moving. I really do. I hate it. I hate the process of being in a new place, not having time to make new friends. Like, all of it is just like a bother. But it's worth it. I will tell you, to be on this side of it, it is very much worth it. And it is a lot of like,
I think what keeps you going is looking at the lives of the Black midwives now. Especially now that they all share on Instagram. It's right. Like, I want your life.
I want to be you when I grow up.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it is. It's so empowering to see that all these, like, oh my God. I'm always thinking about, I'm like, I could just move here and be a second midwife. Like, come on, just hire me. Me.
There's 2 more questions while we're almost at time. We've just been gisting. Just. For a CPM in your area, how do you all access medications for your clients?
So I'm in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is very interesting because it is an illegal city. Well, Pennsylvania is an illegal state. So there's no licensure here. There's no, like, having whatever, you can't order a med yourself. But most midwives, what they do is that they get licensed in the nearby states. So New Jersey is super, super close to Philly. So most people are licensed in Philly, and they do share buying. So one midwife will buy like all the lidocaine that anybody would ever need, or all the Pitocin, or things like that, any medication like that, and they just divvy it up amongst themselves. Like, Philly is a very, 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 very special city. It really is. And they really created a system for themselves, which is really, really easy to integrate as a new midwife, which I'm very grateful of. So that's how they do the med sharing here.
And I know this one says she doesn't have children, but any tips for someone entering this journey with children?
Ooh. Support. Anybody with or without children, support is like the thing. Like, having somebody on standby to cook you a meal because you haven't eaten all day is like, I am not in midwifery school. I was never in like a super serious relationship where it was like somebody's actually cooking for me. It'll be times that I went to sleep hungry because I was like, I refuse to boil water. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to sleep now. And it happened a lot. Like, but all the people that you need to reach out, just also being very, very open to ask for help. Like, even if you can't even describe the type of help that you need, like, just letting people into your world, even though they might not understand it, just let them into your world, and hopefully they could get a grasp of like what they can help you with, whether it's watching the kids, whether it's picking people up from school, dropping them off, making dinner. Like, you really got to treat yourself like a pregnant person, like, really, honestly.
And last question, what state do you think would be best for training for student midwifery?
Ooh. I don't know if there's a best state. There's
Texas.
midwife. Yeah.
In terms of like the logistics of like the licensure and the freedom that they have in Texas as CPMs, because like when you get to like California, they got all these random restrictions.
Yeah, Cali's a little different. It takes a special person to go to Cali, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, what you said, it is true, but like, I don't even want to say that, because you might run into a midwife that's in a state that's so weird, but you gain so much from it. Like, it's all about the experience and the practice that you're going into, less of like, well, I mean, for the CNM,
I think for training, it doesn't really matter.
It does not. It doesn't matter. But
find your perfect person, and I use perfect very
loosely. Very loosely.
Sometimes you're able to find that person, and the other times it's like, I just need to get this done with.
Yeah.
Who is available?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you so much, Titi,
Yes,
for
thank
joining.
you so much. So
Any
sorry
last
for
thoughts
being
you want to leave with the people?
Ooh, the person that said they want to quit, please don't quit. We do need more midwives. Like, if you need any type of support, reach out, please. Social media is there. People have access. You have access to people. Hit them up. Continue to hit them up, even though if they don't hit you back, find their email, send them an email. Just, and also view midwifery in your lens. Like, don't try to like adopt other people's way of life and how they're doing things, because
I would say that's the biggest advice. Take your time. Take your time. Take your time.
Yeah. No rush. No rush.
Yeah, I think I thought I was quitting and just needed a break.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need a break.
Yeah.
So you can recenter yourself.
Definitely. Yeah. This is my second like off-call session that I've had in my whole midwifery career. And I think I'm gonna continue that, like every year, just going off call, like not having to worry about that whole midwifery life and being alert all the time and always being nervous that somebody's gonna call you and like, that whole thing.
Well, give thanks, and you will be a CPM and an LM in the next coming months, and we are rooting for you. We need more Black midwives. We need folks out here doing the work. Take care of yourself, and
you too.
Have a great night.
Yes, you too. Have a good night, everyone.
Peace.
Bye.